Sure. Hello, we're on Jesus TV, and this is another episode of Suffer Well, Healed by His Stripes. And so, one of the ways we can suffer well is by getting used to the mess that life is. This life tends to be kind of messy. And we have with us again Emily Powell. We're so excited because she's agreed to come on and do some messy Jesus art. So, this episode is officially named Emily Powell Messy Live Drawing Episode. So we're going to get to see something in process. So both Jonathan and I are very excited. And so we're going to turn the talking stick over to you. Is there anything you want to say, Jonathan, before we go and give that to Emily?
No, I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, sounds great.
Okay. You guys just want me to start?
Yeah, and we'll ask questions along the way. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Forgot to get my apron and stuff on, so I gotta grab that and grab some of my supplies.
That's
So
fine.
if you have any questions while I'm grabbing supplies, it would be a good time.
Okay. Well, and I added some questions to our list. So we created some questions for Emily, and so she can ask us those. When you're ready to have us ask questions, you just say so.
You guys can go right now.
Okay. Well, I got one right now.
Okay.
What does it feel like to do your paintings in terms of getting closer to Jesus? Does Jesus talk to you? If so, how often? I mean, all I have to experience is like my own experience with Jesus. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that. This is bringing you closer to Christ. And it's like, okay, did you talk it? Do you feel it? What's that? Because you talk with Jesus in a funny language called painting. My wife does the same thing. English is one of the formal languages, but Jesus, he tends to talk to me in the way that you're painting. I mean, not painting, but he talks to me in a scrappy mashup way. And so I'm just wondering what that's like for you as you're doing this.
It's kind of different. Usually what's happening, so it's kind of weird starting it on video right now because it's not like this exact same mode. So usually when I'm painting, it's when I'm really have a lot of anxiety or I'm really stressed. So I'm usually in like a coping. So usually what I do is I make a mess of something, like a mess of a canvas. So these are like some mess ones that have already kind of been made messy. And then after I kind of have been like, okay, I'm in a mess, and I kind of like get it all out there, then it's like my brain is clear. And then just kind of as I'm painting, just thoughts come to my mind. It's just kind of just like quiet, and I don't know, just thoughts come. Sometimes I actually feel like the talking to God part happens more when I'm like, when I finish the painting and I write on the back, where I write, like this one's not done yet, but where I write on the back, I usually write like a poem or a story or a title. So sometimes it happens at that point too. It's just kind of, there's not like I don't think there's like an exact time or moment that's happened.
Yeah.
Cool.
That answers your question.
No, yeah, it does. It's I'm kind of a reductionist, trying to figure out what's going on, Jesus, when you're talking to me. And I'm like, it's not like getting a text. It's not like getting a phone call. It's kind of like impression, and it's part me. It's like, is that just me? Because I could easily believe that's just my voice. But I choose to believe, no, that's Jesus. You're not that smart. Because sometimes he'll come up with really smart things, insights. I'm like, oh no, I know I'm not that smart. And it's what you're talking about, kind of clear your mind, or he has me under pressure, or I'll wake up from a dream. And so I fascinate like how he's talking to me in ways I never have before. It's like, that's weird. I did not spend my life saying, Jesus, you're weird. You talk weird. But after I got born again, I started paying attention to how he's talking to me. And he's always talked to me. That's what I realized. But then I'm like, how do you talk to other people? And so I'm like, hey, I'm going to ask Emily that question. So yeah, you answered it. And it's similar. He leaves impressions on your mind. But for me, those impressions aren't like in English. They're like a dream, where it'd be hard to tell people exactly what did he say. Well, I can't even hardly tell myself that. So anyhow, there's where that question kind of comes from. And it'll probably be an outstanding question for the rest of my life. What's that like for other people, let alone myself?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just like thoughts, you know? It's just, yeah, really just thoughts.
Okay, so tell us what you're doing right now.
But what I'm doing is I'm trying to decide which one of these I want to work on. I haven't decided. So one of your questions you guys asked earlier, which has to relate what you guys had on your Google Doc was, what's next in this Jesus in the Mess series? Like, am I still doing it? So there's kind of, yeah, I'm still doing it. I'm getting back into it again. But what I'm trying, I really want to paint bigger ones. So when I did, so like these are a whole bunch of smaller ones. So when I did these are the ones that I did like somewhere between 300 of, and they're just like little sizes. So, like,
Can you
can
pull
see,
it
like, this
closer
one.
to this camera? Like there. Oh yeah. Now see that we can see. Oh yeah.
And
That
some
looks
you
like
can see and some you can't. And so I have a bunch. So I did lots on paper. I did a lot on canvas, and I did a lot on board. And then, yeah, and then sometimes like I glue them on boards later. Like here's one, like this is paper, and then later I would have glued it on a board. Like this is glued on like a panel. And then,
Cool.
yeah. But what I'm doing now is I want to paint larger. I'm also starting to go back through them, and I'm just starting to combine some of them, and I'm starting to, yeah, just kind of finish them up because some of them I felt like were just half-formed thoughts, I guess you could say. So I'm doing that, and then the other thing I'm doing is I'm working on really big ones. So here, I'll pull this off here for a second. So like this is one that's almost done. This one's actually already sold, but this one is almost done, and I gotta finish this one in a week or so. I always call this one Big Blue Jesus. This one's like 4 by 4 feet, but I'm just gonna do a little bit more on the face on this one.
I like it.
And then this one here, this is one I started just kind of randomly. I'll pull it out. So this is one I started about 2 weeks ago, I want to say. And so it's kind of, so this is pretty large. I want to say it's like maybe 30 by 40 or 36 by 48 inches. Pretty big. And this one is layered over like a lot of other ones. I don't know if you can kind of see a Jesus figure there, kind of crouched over.
Point with your finger so I can see it.
Okay, so this is like his face, and then.
Oh,
This is
okay. I
like
see
his
him now.
back.
Yeah, I see him now. Yeah, I didn't. It was
That's
like
like,
seeing
that's
him.
like his leg, and I
Yeah.
haven't finished down here. And this is his hands, and I haven't decided if he's washing his hands or trying to unravel a knot or a mess. So my whole point of this one is he's kind of like down in the mud. Is kind of where this one was going. And I don't always start with an idea. Like I don't start with an idea like this one. This is a painting, so I paint over my old paintings. So like on this, you can see this stuff right here. I did like a really abstract kind of mud painting that was under this. And then under that, there actually was like a realistic thing. So sometimes I like to just like layer because it gives it like really interesting textures. And so I'm going to show today. Sorry, you had a question?
I said, cool. Sorry, I need to be careful not to. I shouldn't.
No, and so today, what I was going to show.
Yeah,
Sometimes
Emily.
when I paint over, yeah.
So Jonathan and I probably won't talk too much because we don't want to interrupt. Your audio is sufficient, meaning people can hear you. And if we talk over you, we'll miss something. So don't think that we're not interested. So just imagine cheerleaders over here silently going, "Oh yeah, I love that." Okay, how about that?
Okay. So what I'm going to show you guys now is kind of like the process of how I paint over a painting. So like this is a Jesus one from before, and I haven't really ever loved it. And so like that's what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of like going over the old ones, and again you get like a pattern, or like, I don't know, it just makes a texture. So what I'm using here, so I use a mixture of oils and acrylics, mud and paint, and there's like you have to do it. Sometimes it will flake off, and so you have to watch how you do it. This is like an oil-based, kind of like a white enamel. So it's like a big bucket of, so it's kind of like oil-based. This stuff is really hardy, and it can go over almost anything. So I should have put something on my counter. I'm just thinking, oh, well, we might get a mess on my counter. Yeah, guess I'll just put paper towel secret. So
Yeah, you go
This
ahead
isn't
and
my real
protect that
opinion.
as much. We've got plenty of time. The nice thing about Jesus TV is
Uh-huh.
we go long like conference.
oh dang. Well, I can go free, like always, but I'm just gonna put a couple things here on the edges. Look at, I have a phone book. Can you believe it? This is what
Nice.
phone books are for. This
Yeah,
is like
those
the
are
last
rare
phone
now.
book I got. I know, right? Phone books work really well for painting because you can like wipe your brushes and stuff on them, and they're just like, I don't know, they're just really good for that. Kind of weird. Something I learned a long time ago, probably like when I was a teenager. Okay.
Yeah, so
This way I
I
won't get
noticed you
dizzy
do a
on
lot of repurposing of stuff. It looks like mud and
Oh yeah. So so sometimes when I start, I just like I told you guys before, I just like rip it on, and there's not really a rhyme or a reason.
Uh-oh, she's using her right hand.
I know, and that's the other thing I was. Well, I'm sleeping hand. That's the other thing I was going to tell you. I don't always do left hand. I can't do this one left-handed if you want. I don't. That's fine. I do both ways. It's just sometimes it's hard for me. I probably just forgot because I'm talking to you guys. I have to like specifically think about it.
I know.
Otherwise,
I just messing with you. I knew that.
okay. So I've learned that when I use paint like this, I kind of it dries. It's kind of interesting the way it dries, so I have to catch it at like the right dry level. It's kind of hard to explain. I just let it dry a little bit, and then I just start scraping it on. So like, well, this one I got a bit too much on here. So sometimes I do like several at once. So like, I'm gonna come on this one. I'm like, oh, I got too much on here, so I'm just gonna like wipe this off on another one. So there's not like I said, there's not a lot of planning. This is way too much. Put some on there. So I usually do several paintings, like I said, at the same time. Trying to figure out what I want to do on this one. It's got like really too much paint on it.
Have you met have you met anyone else who's doing what you are doing with your Jesus art? Have you
there's been some people after I've done it, like some people I've been connected to like on social media that have done their own renditions, or I've encouraged people to just do their own thing. So yeah, there's some. And I was really influenced by J. Kirk Richards. He's a Utah artist from Woodland Hills. He doesn't do it with his are messy, but he doesn't do like left-handed and all of that. His are just kind of more abstract. He had a series probably about 6 or 7 years ago, 7 years ago maybe, where he did a bunch of Christus. He called them Christus, and he did a bunch of little tiny Jesus paintings like this big, and they were like really abstract. And that's pretty much what started my idea or my thought process, which is seeing those little ones by time. But yeah, and there's a lot of like abstract type people. I'm gonna get this thing all gross. I should have grabbed some spoons and forks for you guys because
that's right.
But I didn't bring any downstairs. So a lot of times I like to use carving tools and stuff, and I just forgot to grab them. So I actually just tapped it off on another one. So this one got way. Can you guys still hear me?
Yep, we're back up. Yep.
Okay. My earbuds just apparently the battery just died off. So you guys can still hear me like this, okay though?
We hear you fine. Yep.
Because apparently those. There's not going to be a lot of talking unless you guys ask me questions. I don't.
That's fine. Go ahead and talk, Jonathan, if you want. If you have questions, I've got some more questions.
This is a better like listening thing more than a.
Yeah, well, I've watched Bob Ross. he talks a little bit, but mostly just painting and
Yeah.
Well, I know like when I'm doing something, I have to focus. I don't want you to have one of our questions and I'm really curious just to watch. It's on. I don't focus on what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think what else I can tell you guys or do. Yeah. Like I said, if you have a question, sorry, I'm getting a different earphone setup.
Okay.
I have to. Which is actually fine because I want this one to dry more. It's kind of, I like it to be kind of sticky. So yeah.
And do you have something in mind for this one? Like when you're
No,
at this point?
no, not at all. Nothing right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna scrape more of the stuff off to see if like it turns into anything. But yeah, I'll be honest, this is kind of like really intimidating because I don't usually paint live like this. I usually, like I said, do a lot at a time, and then sometimes they turn out and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
If it doesn't.
Well, good. I'm glad that you're willing to be vulnerable for Jesus TV.
Yeah. So okay, now I've got this.
Well, I think that's really cool. The whole concept is, the idea is that you're trying to find him in a place that you wouldn't expect. It's like, and I love that. That's kind of what faith is like. I'm going against what I said. I'm talking now, so I'll try to be quick. But
go ahead. Go ahead. I like it.
No, just seems like that's kind of how it is. It's like the idea is that with faith is that you have to move ahead in the messy way, and it's kind of amazing that you end up discovering meaning in a life that otherwise seems meaningless.
Sorry, I missed that last section because my corded earbuds fell out.
Yeah, why don't you repeat that, Jonathan? There's nothing.
Yeah,
That's
I caught the
repeating.
very first section, but I didn't catch the last part. Sorry.
Oh, just it seems to me that that's the way that faith is, in a sense. Like it really makes sense to me because you have to move ahead as if there is meaning in life, but then it's so messy, and so it's like you have to search and find the meaning in it. It's like that's what faith is, kind of. It's like, if you think about like Moses leading the people out of Egypt, it's like it was pretty messy. It just seemed like a bunch of flies and frogs and everything else. Let's throw some flies at them. Let's, make the Nile run with blood and this and that. And it's just a whole big mess. And then afterwards, you can kind of look and go, oh, hey, look, there's some meaning here.
Definitely.
And what are you putting on there right now?
That's just water.
Okay.
This paint usually needs like a paint thinner, but I forgot to bring it down here and it's in my garage. So we're just using water. I don't think. So I usually paint in I have a studio set up in my garage and that's usually where I paint, but it's just gotten too cold. So I brought some of my stuff down here to this basement kitchen, but I don't have all my supplies here.
Well, I'm glad you're handicapped. This demonstrates it. It's like when I go to church and I'm not in the mood to worship Jesus right now. Maybe I can get there. So, yep.
So yeah, I'm just pouring on water with my hand. So I have a bucket of water.
Okay.
And I'm just pouring it on because usually once I cover it, I like to remove it.
I see.
Kind of like it to be random.
Okay.
So I'm just pouring it on. And then as I remove it, we're starting to see some color under here, like a underneath layer. So I do that a lot just because I think it's fun.
I like it. And it, like Jonathan, this reminds me of my relationship with Jesus. He said, what do you notice about me most significantly, Greg? And of course, he has the answer. It's kind of, you're invisible. That's a big, huge barrier. And so right now, Emily's trying to find Jesus. She's wiping this off. Like, Jesus, you got to be somewhere here. And so First she made a mess of this thing. And now she's going to reveal it. And so it's like Find Waldo, but in this case, it's Find Jesus. And we see the picture behind her. It looks like Jesus to me, the Jesus I know, kind of abstract. You say, well, is that what he really looks like? Oh, probably not. If you know my Jesus, as the Book of Mormon says, my Jesus, I glory in my Jesus. Well, not everybody's going to glory in Greg's Jesus, because my Jesus might be a little more abstract or different. So here we go. Emily's Jesus, we'll see how it turns out. She doesn't even know from day to day. So in your last episode and in this episode, you mentioned that you connect most strongly when you're facing difficulties. So that's why I'm glad you don't have all the accoutrements you have. You're handicapped even.
Yeah, like this stuff. Yeah, I was hoping this stuff I put on would work. This is a different type of paint thinner, but it's not strong enough, so it's driving me nuts.
I see.
Strong enough. I can't get it off.
Well, maybe Jesus wants to be white today. Maybe you can just start telling the stories and say,
I guess
look,
so.
there's Jesus.
Yeah. So one of my tools I like to use, I actually like to use like a wire bristle brush. I have one of those out in the garage.
Oh, that's right.
Just scratch it off. I do crazy stuff, but I can't seem to get it off anymore. It's starting to get a little.
You need to get some forks, is what you need. Some forks and
I know.
a
You want me to go
knife.
get some forks? I can. But you said you wanted me to be handicapped, so I don't know which way I should go.
That's all right. You're doing
Back of a
good.
brush.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
We
you
need
have
to be full about. We need to be a little bit more. What's the word? Politically correct. Greg, I don't know about you saying that Jesus wants to be white.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
that's true. Yeah, that has connotations, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm joking.
So my razor blade just broke. That's okay. I've got this little piece here I can do stuff with.
Oh, look at that. Jesus is making it harder for Emily, I believe.
I believe so too.
Yep. That's how we find him. She just keeps scratching.
I know, right?
Yep.
So a lot of times I do these, it's more like carving, but it's not. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that's getting really annoying. I'm gonna switch the color right now. I'm gonna add some color layers on top. What
All
color should
right.
I do, guys? Do you have a color you want me to start with? Just like give me a color. Like do you want are you thinking
Red. I like Jesus. Red.
red?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll while you paint red, I'm gonna sing the Jesus song. Okay, that's about red. Okay. Just a second. Paint it red. There's actually a song called Paint It Red. Jesus baptized one of the Rolling Stones songs called Paint It Black. And so here's the baptized version. I see a black door and I want to paint it red. Always I want more Jesus, to him be me led. I don't have the melody right now, so I'm kind of like Emily, just trying to find my way here. I see with my new eyes a messed up world grown cold. Oh, there's Mick Jagger. I hear him now. It needs to turn to red to make the darkness go. I see a line of bars and they're all painted black. The carnal kind of love, it is the devil's shack. I've seen people turn their heads and quickly go that way. But a newborn Jesus culture is being birthed today. I look inside myself and see my heart needs fed. I see my black door and I must have it painted red. Only then I'll find my way and finally face the facts. It's not easy facing up when your whole world is black. So every day I'll reach, I'll turn to Jesus, you. I could not foresee this thing happening, it's true. If I look hard enough and believe you are the one, your love will grow in me until you, Jesus, come. I see a black door and I want to paint it red. Always I want more Jesus, to him be me led. I see with my new eyes a messed up world grown cold. It needs to turn to red to make the darkness go. Oh, there you go. That's enough.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I had to focus on the lyrics, but I'm gonna see how that looks while you were painting it red. So there we go. Paint it red. Oh,
Make it
that's
red.
looking good. I think I'm. Can you see Jesus yet? Do you see anything
No.
right now?
Nope, just a mess.
Just a mess.
The Jesus
Okay.
part doesn't usually come until like the end.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just do like patterns and textures. I'm
Patterns and textures.
looking for something to clean my hand.
Okay. Let's see. Questions. I got a question for you. Do you teach the same way like at school? You teach art then at school?
I do teach art, but no, it's nothing like this. And that's because I'm primarily a commercial art teacher and a yearbook teacher, which means I teach Photoshop and Illustrator.
I see. Okay.
So no, I don't actually teach painting. I do have a couple arts foundations classes, which is like beginner art, but no, I'm not painting teacher. So I've actually never taught painting in school, although I love painting. It's just kind of, I like teaching the digital stuff too, though. So
That's cool. That's cool.
Well, I'm liking your painting more already.
really?
So what's that you're on now that's in the jar?
So this is brush cleaner. So I usually use it to clean oil paint off brushes, and it's the only called Turpenoid paint thinner. It's the only stuff I have here.
She's
so
improvising.
I'm
Yes.
just improvising. So if you notice, it kind of makes it look, so it's kind of like it does to oil paint what water does to watercolors. So like, see how this one's like all like out now? So it kind of does a different approach. I wish I had like a blank whiteboard because I would put my hand like on it. So I'm just gonna.
Oh yeah, look at
So
that.
sometimes that's how I get my textures on my other boards, because I just like clean my hands off on them. But yeah, so yeah, funny. I don't actually.
I like it. Emily, what it's reminding me of, it's kind of like a parable for how Jesus has been working with me, because it's a lot of what I do now with worshiping is intuitive. Like even Jesus TV, Jesus gave me a television station. I'll go on there and it just looks like a mess, like what you're doing right there. And like, hey, can you see Jesus yet? But there's an intuitive process that starts coming through, and it works. And it's hard to explain people how it works. So oftentimes, like your painting right now, would look like my attempts to worship Jesus to people. They're like, that ain't Jesus. And I've been like, I totally get it, but I'm on my way from misery to happiness towards Jesus. And so anyhow, that's partly one for me. Your art is a parable. And I think all art is. So when I see my wife start out, it's pretty rugged to start out any painting, because it's so rough, like like a child trying to explain things, and then eventually it gets more mature, like the painting behind you.
Yeah. What kind of stuff does your wife paint then?
She does landscape. She does. Yesterday she was doing a dog. A dog with a boy, and just whatever God puts into her heart. Yeah, but she liked your episode, so she watched. I think she watched both episodes. She tends to stay away from Jesus TV because I'm kind of a wild man, and it can give her PTSD to watch her husband.
Oh, I could see that. My husband does YouTube, and I don't usually watch what he does.
What kind of stuff does he do?
So he's not religious or anything, but he has several channels. He has ones where he plays like video games. He has one called, what's it called? I never even can keep track of all the names. Uncle Jay Oshitaki Mushrooms. And it's like a fake family vlog.
Oh, okay.
He does that in kind of conjunction with his brother. So it's just like, it's like life, or whenever we have like a family party or something, like with extended family, and just we always make something bad happen. You kind of do something really extreme, or you fake a fight. So it's like fake. So it's like reality TV, right?
I see. Yeah,
It's
that's
just
right.
like fake. We have Toy Channel. We have his biggest one that he hasn't really started. He stopped doing the last couple of years, but he had one that was called Epic Marbles, and he just did marble races, like digital ones,
Oh, yeah.
like a physics program. That one used to have tons of views and tons of. It has about 80,000 subscribers.
Oh,
And then,
interesting. People like marble runs.
I know, right? Totally random. He started it because my kids would watch it a lot. But that's kind of yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff he would do.
Yeah. Well, another reason why I like what you're doing. So I build Jesus worlds. That's what Jesus has me do, like the metaverse. But I'm building a Jesus world with Jesus. And
what does that mean? I don't know what you mean when you say
well,
Jesus.
okay. So right now I'm looking at a part of your world. So if we take that concept, you could say somebody's whole life, that it's their world. So you've heard the term, in your world, this is, what world do you live in, right? And so there is a sense at which we experience life internally, really, a lot of it's internal, and we may experience it differently than other people, right? And that's so we can reach out and ask people, how are you experiencing life? So I feel like this program on Emily, we're getting a picture, a small view of your life, and actually seeing how does she approach a painting, a Jesus painting, because that had particular interest to me when she does Jesus art. Oh, well, that's my favorite friend, my invisible friend, my invisible imaginary friend. And so it's a term that is colloquial. That is, that people have used that term before. But what's going to happen with the metaverse is we're actually going to have personal worlds. In some sense, your husband's YouTube channels are that. People can go to that location. That's what the internet is too. You can go the World Wide Web. Why do they call it a world? Is it really a world? Well, it goes throughout the world pretty much, but it's an electronic thing. And so, but it allows us to visit knowledge, people, things, and you can actually send people to those places. And so what is being envisioned with what's called Web 3.0 or whatever, the new web, is that they're calling it the metaverse, which implies that it's a big thing, meta being big. So it's like a universe. And when I got born again in 2015, Jesus told me about what's coming, that people would have their own personal electronic universe, that and this is probably going to be younger people. So if you go to like Minecraft or SimCity, this terminology is familiar, because people know that they can have their own world in Minecraft. And you say, well, that's just a pretend world. Correct. You are correct. And it's an electronic world, but it allows people to go express themselves in an environment where they can kind of look at things they want in their world. And so people can download different things. And so that's I'm into world building because Jesus told me to be, but my world has a theme. It's a Jesus theme. So Disneyland, they talk about Disneyland or Disney World, the wonderful world of Disney. And so what you have basically is a themed world. So if you went to the wonderful world of Disney, what would you expect to find? I would expect to find Goofy things and Minnie Mouse things and Mickey Mouse things. Those are part of that world. And so when I think about coming and watching you do this, like in your own home, and seeing your world of art, like all those pictures you showed us at the first of this episode, that's part of your world. That's Emily using her energy, her strength to produce something that's valuable to her. And so I'm able to visit that world and take a part of it, because that's what Jesus TV allows me to come to your world and take a part of it, because we're recording this. And so then I can share it with other people because now it's in my world. Because I have Jesus put a television station in my world, or you could call it in my sphere, or you could call it in Greg's little part of the world. He's given me a television station or a way to organize so that I can go to other people's worlds. So I went to Jonathan's world. I'll go to Jonathan's world often. His world, there's this guy that lives in a van in Jonathan's world, and his name is Jonathan McCormick, and that's Jonathan. And I go to his world, and in his world, there's a poet, and his name is also Jonathan. But he writes prophetic poetry. So I was able to capture some of those prophetic poems and discuss them with him. And so I'm using terminology. You say, well, why don't you just say that you have this video program that you do like little documentaries? Oh yeah, I could, but in my world, I'm fashioning kind of a new story, but that story is going to be patterned after what you'll see 10 years from now. What I'm speaking of will make all the sense in the world, because it does to people like Mark Zuckerberg. He knows Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Meta and runs that. And he's poured $15 billion in it so that people can have their own space. You want to call it a world? Fine. He's selling parts of that metaverse for millions of dollars to people who then put tracts of land for sale. People are actually spending money to have a space in the metaverse. Oh, she just hit pause on that.
I'm still here. It's
Okay.
just my phone. Somebody texted me and it popped up.
Oh, no problem. I get it. That's fine.
The text took over. That's why I like my computer.
Yeah,
You can keep talking. Sorry.
That's no problem. I'm about ready to wrap up so that you will have that full explanation. And so in the future, here's what I can tell you, because we're not quite there. But if somebody wanted to, they could just Google the coming metaverse, and they would learn all about what I'm just talking about, where people will have, and they will literally buy. There's people right now buying space electronically and creating worlds. It's already started. And it would be like 30 years ago, people say, oh, there's people are creating these websites, and that would mean nothing to my parents or myself as well 30 years ago. But 20 years ago, it started making sense to people. Now people know what it is. Oh, you go to the website. It's a place you go. And so that's, and you say, well, why don't we just call it a website? Because it'll be on the web, right? Right. So in some ways it already exists. And that's what you would learn if you study it. But what's coming is so immersive. It's going to be so substantially immersive that people will have to have new names for it. And one of those names is your own personal world. And then it'll become an organizing device. And that's really what, so part of this Jesus TV is what you do is you create content, and then people can come and visit that content. And of course, the content that I'm gathering is the stuff I'm interested in. So that when AI takes this, because AI will take this, and I will be able to go in your kitchen. Here's the thing, I'll tell you what's coming. Like, see, right now, I can't jump into that little square. I can see you in your kitchen, but AI will be able to envision that kitchen, and I will be able to come in there and stand beside you. And I'll say, here I am with Emily. and I'll be able to pick up one of your paintings, because it will have copied that, allowed me to put it in my hand. AI will be able to immerse us. And so I think one reason Jesus has me doing this content is because AI is going to come and serve it up again in a more immersive 3D kind of way. Yeah, that's long-winded. Does it make any of that make sense?
My question is, like, is it on like a platform, or like
Yep.
Is it like for, yeah, like, is it just like you said, like a computer website? Is it part of a game? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what is
they're trying to figure it out now. You're trying to figure it out. I'll tell you who else is trying to figure it out. Mark Zuckerberg, to the tune of $15 billion in the last year, he's dumped 15 billion, and people are laughing at him because it's just like it has tanked the Facebook, or what's now called Meta. Their shareholders are kind of upset with him, but he's taking a big risk because he doesn't when he first made Facebook, he didn't know what it was. He made that back in college, and he didn't really know what it was. He didn't know it was a media platform, but it became that. But he went forward with faith. Just look at that. Look at that. That's looking like Jesus. See? And she went forward. She must know how he looks. There we go. Wow. Look at that. I wasn't.
It's really cool to watch.
Yeah, and so that the platform is yet to be determined, but yes, it will be the internet. You'll access it like a game thing. I mean, if your husband's into gaming, so then you know what the Oculus is. Do you know what the Oculus
that's what I
is?
was wondering. That's what I was wondering, if it was like an Oculus world.
Yeah, and that's why Mark Zuckerberg's at the lead of it. He's the leader because he has the Oculus, he has the platform, so it'll be a very social place, and there's so much more to work out. But here's the thing, Jesus has me working on the Jesus verse. I've been talking metaverse. I've said nothing about the Jesus verse. And it turns out there's going to be multiple platforms. And one of those is you're going to say, well, what if I wanted to go to a place that's not the metaverse, meaning it's not Babylonian, it's like Jesus themed. That's what I'm building right now, is I'm building a world that's Jesus themed. And so, because that's what you have. If I walked in your house, I would say, oh, I'm picking up on a vibe here. Let's see. I'm in the garage here. I'm picking up on a vibe. You know what these paintings make me think of? Jesus. For some reason, everywhere I turn, it's Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. See, and so
that's exactly what my house is like, by the way.
That's
I
right.
should show you guys too. It's like there's Jesus everywhere. My kids are like, don't you paint anything besides Jesus? So yeah.
Yeah. Yes. As soon as something or someone comes up that's cooler than Jesus, I will do it. That's what I always tell people. I'd be glad to worship another God, but I already worshiped the devil. He didn't turn out very well. I'm done with that. I'm all in on Jesus, just because I can't find another God who's as cool as Jesus. He's kind. He loves me despite my faults. So he's hard to compete with. Once you get a good taste of Jesus, anyways, that's for me. I'm a fanatic. Some people are fans of Jesus, and some people are kind of light fans. They'll tune in when he's, his team is winning and so forth. But yeah, and that's good. So now do you understand what I'm talking about? Like your world?
Yeah. So it's an Oculus world.
Yes. And here's the cool thing about Jesus first. He's going to connect it to the physical world. Now, that's what Mark Zuckerberg eventually wants to do, because he wants to have Emily get on with the Oculus and create an avatar where she has this cool dress. And then Mark Zuckerberg, lo and behold, he'll say, do you want that dress? Because everybody's complimenting her avatar on her dress. And she says, you mean I could have one in the real life? Just click on this button. And then he would just take money out of your account through Visa or whatever. And 2 days later, maybe through Amazon or whatever, you're going to be able to put that dress on and go to your, son's wedding or something like that. And you tried out that dress and it fits you because you had the AI scan your body. You're like, I've never had a dress that fits this well. It's so cool. And I got to wear it for 3 years before, and I'll always get compliments. And so he's selling, these are called NFTs, non-fungible tokens. He's literally selling right now dresses made by like Dior and others. He's hired these people to build dresses in the cartoon land, if you will, so that people can actually download so their avatars look good. I mean, that's hard to believe. I'm like, really? People are doing that?
That sounds pretty nuts. But I guess that's what people thought about, internet stuff.
Yep, that's right. And it's just a matter of time, because there's so many women who, like, if you could scan my body and actually send me a dress that, even if a robot makes it, that actually fits me like it's supposed to, or fits, then they'd be down for that. They'd spend a premium to do that. And that's ultimately, he's going to connect it to the real life, what people call real life. And of course, what the metaverse is going to eventually teach everyone, it's all pretend. What? Real life, so it's the Matrix. So Jesus has had me study these people who are at the forefront of this, it's called virtual reality. And they say it's going to create a revolution, because people will realize once they put that Oculus headset on, they'll pull it off and they'll look at real life, and they'll put it back on and they'll say, oh, I see something. real life is made up. We just make up stuff like Emily's doing. She just threw some paint down and just red paint while Greg was singing his crazy song. And look at, she's making something. And AI will help on that, because then I can make your picture. I'll say, hey, AI, can you make what Emily's making and then make it better? Woo, look at that. Look what I can do. And Emily say, it's not as fun.
Not as fun. That's exactly what
there you
I'm
go.
saying.
That's right. That's what artists will protect themselves. Exactly. No, that's
That's
cool.
definitely not as fun.
Wow.
Can I introduce?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, first of all, it's really amazing to watch it come out. It's like, I can tell you've been doing it for a while. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, thank you. As far as what Greg was saying, Greg and I have talked a lot, and it's like, Greg has kind of his own language for the things that he's describing. But I think that the idea is that we're able to create a life that is, life comes out of what you imagine, right? So that's kind of like what faith is like, you know, and all the technology and stuff. It's like that's kind of, I guess technology perhaps gives us a way to, you could say paint is a technology, right? So it's like someone decided to take pigments from different dyes and to create colors so that you could take something that's in your mind and in your heart, and you could preserve it in such a way that other people could, you know, I'm thinking about like the caveman days, I guess, like somebody could come into your cave and you could say, hey, let me tell you a story. And they could look at the wall and they could get an idea of what your life or the world that you live in is like. So it's the idea is that I think, I guess I want to just kind of clarify a little bit. It's like Greg's really interested in all of this technology and the ideas that and the things that are kind of coming. The fact that people are, it's almost as if the world that people are imagining is becoming more real to them than the world that they live in. And a lot of people are trying to escape into a virtual world, through the internet or through games or through you know, different things. They're trying to escape into a world of their own making. And so it's like, it's a strange thing that God's given us in a sense, like, because we live in a time where you almost can create with your mind the world that you want to live in. You can create a world that's full of pornography and lust and or violence or whatever, or else you can surround yourself in your virtual world. You know, it's like, and the strange thing about it is that it's like everybody's trying to market to you, so they send you more of what you like, and so you can create a world that's beautiful. And it all kind of comes out of, well, what do I long for? What do I imagine constantly in my mind? What am I always trying to express? And it's like, it's obvious by looking at these paintings. It's like that the thing that you're always trying to express is kind of like you said, like what you're feeling about Christ, you know. And anyways, that's kind of what I take from what Greg's trying to say, is that it's like we get a choice as to what we surround ourselves with and what we create and what we project to the world, and that the worlds that we live in our heads and in our hearts, we're able to share with other people. And so the beautiful thing is that we can share something uplifting and that points to the divine. It's really cool to watch you do it. So
Yeah, this is
that's
great.
That's really interesting. Kind of off topic of that, but kind of not. So I think one of the things I've heard you guys say is like Jesus is imaginary. And that always just kind of feels weird to me because I actually believe that people can see Jesus, and I actually know people who have. And so knowing, like, I don't know, no, that just seemed like weird. That was just something that you guys said, but I know your games and stuff like those are different, or your worlds creating are different. But that was just one of my thoughts. Was just
Oh, I like your thought. I'm glad you picked up on that. So Jesus was the one that told me to say that. So I referred to him as my imaginary friend who is real. Okay. Who
yeah,
is
yeah. You said
Jesus.
that.
Yeah. And so what that does is it emphasizes in order for me to see Jesus, he said, Greg, you're going to have to use your imagination. So when I got born again, I said, I want to get closer to you, Jesus. And he said, you're going to have to become like a little child, which means you are going to have to use your imagination. You have to imagine that I'm with you. Now, that term, imagination, there's more religious terms that people are more comfortable with than imagination. As soon as you start saying imagine, even if you say my imaginary friend who is real, people still like, oh, come on, quit using the term imagination. But then Jesus said, tell them that you're using your sacred imagination. And then that's one step closer to where people are comfortable. But I can take them even one more step, and this is scriptural. It's called the eye of faith. So if you studied the eye of faith, you would say, well, aren't we just talking about faith? Yes. Now, there we go. They say, well, just call it my friend who is perceived by faith or by belief. I'd say correct. But I needed in my heart to engage in a way that I was familiar when I was a child. I would imagine certain things. And here's the thing, as adults, we imagine, we may not like how using that term, but nonetheless, we imagine that there's angels protecting us. When we say a prayer, we imagine, like President Holland says, angels are rushing. Does President Holland have to use his imagination in order to believe that? You bet he does. Okay. What psychologists? So I'm using a secular term, which is then, yeah, people will call foul, but it is a way in which I've been able to get closer to God by, for instance, imagining that I have a Jesus television station. Like, it's not a real TV station. And then I'll show them the sign, which I'm going to show you. So he had me create a sign so I could imagine it better. I'm going to show you a sign that I paint because I also paint. So hold that thought just a second.
Okay.
I'll interject something while he's coming back. I just was going to say, I'm not sure that I guess I don't know. I'd have to think back about the conversations Greg and I have had. But go ahead, Greg. This is his sign.
So some people need signs and tokens. So you see, this is Jesus TV. You can see that Jesus TV. So if you went to Fox News, you would see they have what's called cryons, which are things that scroll, and you go, that looks like a real TV station, although your eyes are just picking up the same thing they're picking up here. Your eyes and your brain, see, it says TV. So Greg, you said you have a TV station, and I can go, look, I do, it's right here. So pointing to a TV station is kind of a sociological thing. We say, well, that's Fox News. Well, this is Jesus TV. And so I am a sociologist. And so you're saying, oh, so I see what you're saying is you're imagining that you have a television station that Jesus has given you. That is correct. And I'd also say that Fox News and MSNBC are imagining that they are television stations, that they are worldwide network. Well, hold it, but they're not just imagining it, nor am I. Look, I'm on, and there's Emily Powell. Okay, there's very little difference between us and Good Morning America. Hey, Good Morning America, I can say that. And well, yours is what Emily would call messy, Greg. You're right. It's like a manger scene approximation of television. And so that's what some people need is signs and tokens. So when I look behind your shoulder and I see that Jesus, the person who's going to buy that is actually buying a sign and token. They know that's not Jesus. Where's Jesus? He's right there on the wall. That is not Jesus, okay? Any more than this is a television station. But what it is it's a representation. And we as human beings are symbolic representers. That's how we actually create a reality. We create a reality through symbolic interactionism. And so a picture of Jesus can make us think of what? Jesus. And the very thought of thee, Jesus, the very thought of thee, with sweetness fills my breast. Oh, that's a song that tells us that's how we create reality. Can you feel it? Can you feel Jesus when you, and I can. So when I looked down, I was doing all that talking, and I looked down like, I'll tell you what the reaction was, Emily, because I was doing all that talking before I saw what you did with the red, and it almost took my breath away. I'm like, oh yeah, there he is. There's Jesus. And of course, I knew it was a painting of Jesus, that it was just a bunch of paint on other paint. I know that, but I imagine that's Jesus, and I would treat that sacredly because that art, I wouldn't do anything bad to that art because I'm like, no, that's Jesus. And okay, well, there you go. That's kind of deep. And I did an episode before this one, and I call it R-rated and G-rated communication. And I just said that oftentimes my Jesus TV programs are R-rated. It just means they're restricted, where most people aren't going to be interested because I dive in the deep end of the pool, not the shallow end. It's kind of what I want to do. Okay, there you go. That's a lot of talky talk. Does that, anything there make sense? I'm just doing like you do, throw a bunch of stuff on the painting.
Yeah, I actually thought, like, now that you explained it, like, I guess imagination is right, because so many of us can't see Jesus. We have to think, like I told my kids, when I'm talking to Jesus, I'm like imagining what would he tell me. And like, it's funny, when I paint these, I'm actually not trying to imagine what Jesus looks like. I'm just having fun. I'm just like, oh, that kind of looks like a nose, or that kind of looks like a face. Or right now I'm having a lot of fun just doing like a background, and I'm just doing like kind of swirls and curvy lines, and there's not really a reason for it. I just like it.
It looks beautiful. I just love it. I was going to say too, like the word that keeps coming to my mind is approach. Like, the idea is that we're supposed to approach the divine, approach God. And it's like, it's maybe a long ways. So it's like, we have to kind of, I don't know. There's like a thin line between belief and imagination. It's like I used to think that if I imagine it in my mind, then it's not real. It's just my imagination. But I found that I can have good and healthy imaginations, or else I can have vain and foolish imaginations. And so it's like, if I'm going to, and I think all that, the only way I guess to say this, that it's like, is that our minds can be directed towards that which there's a scripture in Ether 12 where it says that they did see with the eye of faith that which they did see with their natural eyes, that which they had seen beforehand with the eye of faith. And so there's this concept that it's like, we're not going to see what you're talking about, the second comforter, seeing Christ. And it occurs to me, it's like, we're not going to see something with our natural eyes that we haven't seen with the eye of faith beforehand. And so if we're not looking for him, and it's fascinating too, talking about the second coming, it says that those who wait for him, and there's another scripture that I'm losing, but no, I don't know. It's hard when you use words because it's all semantics oftentimes. It's like, it kind of appears like you're saying something different, and you're like, oh no, it might be a little closer, or no, maybe it's a little further away, but it's hard to get at because we just have to throw words at it, and that's the best we can do,
Well,
So
and I'll explain why that word became so important. Because when I got born again, I was 52 years old, 2015. And I was an old man, basically, and I still am. And Jesus said, you literally have to become like a little child, Greg. I mean, I don't know what he requires of other people, but it was required of me. And it still is required that I become meek, teachable, but also literally like a little child, kind of playful, and not worry about, for instance, getting the right words. Oh, you're using the word imagination. That's and the word is meant to provoke me, not to provoke everybody else. I'm done with trying to poke everybody else. I just like to need to know. And so when you said that about what you tell your children, boy, that the bell went off. I'm like, bingo, because that's what God's always saying. The things that the parents have to tell the kids, that's where you need to roll with your energy, Greg, because in order to do what you have to do, because he wants me to do a cultural shift, and I've been doing it, becoming a new creature in Christ, but it's like a deviant subculture, because I'm like, this isn't even a thing I grew up knowing how to do. And he said, be like a little child. And so I'm learning new languages and so forth, and kind of playing with them. So then if other adults go, what do you mean by that? Then I explain it. And some of them have charity for it, others don't. And that's fine. My wife and I are still discussing this issue where I talk with Jesus all day long. I also pray to Heavenly Father. For her, it's like, it seems like we should have all our prayers go to Heavenly Father. But I'm like, which I do. But I talk with Jesus all day. And, when you communicate with God and he's Jesus, it is like you're praying. And I don't have to resolve that. I'm just going to continue to, in fact, today I thought in sacrament meeting, I'm going to ask her, do you think that when we talk to Jesus that we're praying, or is that different? Because I think of communication between God and man as being a form of prayer. But I'm okay with saying, no, I just talk with Jesus. I don't pray. That way I'm able to conform to all the church, or supposed, because I don't think it's supposed. I think actually it's okay to pray to Jesus. But I also formally pray all the time. In fact, it gets more confusing. I'm like, Father, like, Greg, who are you talking to? Both you and Jesus, Heavenly Father, because I'm just like, they're both fathers. Christ, the Father of our salvation, Heavenly Father, the Father of our spirits, and so forth. So it gets confusing to me. I'm like a little kid trying to figure it out. You think I would have got it figured out by age 59, but it feels like my world's getting even messier. But here's the cool thing. I can talk to them about it. They're like, no, it's fine. We are one. That's what I hear, or I imagine I'm hearing. So back to my point there, the language that I use, God is putting that in my heart for a purpose, because there's going to be other people who need that same language. Maybe they're old people like me, who have to do a very fast transformation, because that's what God's told me. What I have to do with you, Greg, is got to be done very fast. Okay. And so he has to be pretty rough with me. And I have to do things that leave me pretty vulnerable, subject to criticism, those kind of things, and to receive it with love. Yeah, okay, enough there. Any thoughts, Emily? Jonathan and I, especially I, took the talking stick there.
No, that's good. You asked me a question and I wanted to answer it. You asked me something about, like, does it count as praying when we're just talking? I think is what you said. Is that what I caught from it?
Oh yeah, well that's
that question.
Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know if that was a rhetorical question or if that was like a question you were.
No, that's a good question. Treat it as a good question. Yeah.
I feel like it is praying, like, because I would say it's even more than just like talking. Like for me, like I feel like this is a form of prayer to me. To me, a form of prayer is just like you're meditating on things of God.
Yeah.
And you're talking to him. You're trying to seek for knowledge. And I think it all comes down to, like, when you're seeking for that knowledge, and sometimes it's not even seeking for knowledge. Sometimes I'm just really venting, and I think that's important too, though. But I don't know. I totally think it counts. I don't actually do a lot of formal prayer. I always, at night, sometimes I feel really guilty because I don't always like kneel down by the side of my bed or, things like that. But like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
fine, like it's just.
I was just going to say, hey, Greg, I did want to ask to make sure, I don't know what the people see once it comes out. I was just going to make sure, like, I don't know if it's switching back and forth between all of us when we talk. I hope they can see her painting.
They can.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, they're going to
yeah.
no, they're going to see all four. Right now, what you see is 4 squares, and they're going to see all 4.
That's what I'm looking at is the 4. So I just want to make sure they're seeing what I was seeing. Okay. So what I was going to say was, it's a comfort to me because I'm not officially a member of the church. And I don't often talk about my own particular situation, but it's a comfort to me that I don't have to worry about it because I love God, and I don't have to. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I also know that I spent much of my life trying to conform to certain forms of prayer or all the things that I was basically told to do, and I've never rebelled against those things at all. I'm very grateful for them. But I'm kind of like you said, Emily. I find myself in the same position where it's like it feels like I'm constantly talking or communicating something. It's like it's like everything is it's like everything has become a prayer. Um, and I actually sometimes when I'll kneel down, I get confused because I start to think to myself, well, what am I supposed to say? And I don't know what I'm supposed to say, and I just say what I want to say. I communicate in the way that I feel to communicate in the moment, or not communicate and just meditate and do something, or work at something. It's another strange thing that it's like it's really hard for me to make sense of the days of the week anymore. I used to think in terms of like I work 5 days a week or 6 days a week, and then on Sunday I worship God. But it's really hard for me. Like like if you were to ask me at any moment, like, what day of the week is it? I would have to think for a minute, and probably at least 25 to 30% of the time I might get it wrong. And because I live in Arizona, which is the seasons are weird down here, it's like I often don't even know what month of the year it is. And so it's like, people talk about, worshiping God on the Sabbath day. And I'm like, yeah, right, that's right. But it almost feels like the world is revolving. It's like we're entering into the Sabbath of the earth. It's like it's a time when it's like I kind of wonder if it's all going to mix. It's like I don't. It's hard for me to know what actions are worshiping God and what actions are my work. It's like my work really feels like my poetry, and the work that I actually gives me money. They call me any day of the week, and I get to go, have to go, whatever you want to say, and it all feels like worshiping God. Um, and it all kind of feels like work too, a little bit. But I kind of wonder if that's what the millennium is going to be about. It's like it's going to be a time when Christ reigns upon the earth, and it's something it's constant. He becomes our constant companion. It's like the Sabbath enters into every day of the week, and the thing we do for work, it's really hard to know, because it kind of overlaps into the Sabbath day. It's like I sit here and I write, and it's like, well, what are your, is your, I don't know, I'm rambling, but the point being is it's almost like he comes to live inside of us and he makes everything one thing. Now I'm rambling and throwing stuff on the canvas, but anyways.
No, I think that's good. There's just so much that we don't know. I guess one of the things that I can relate to what you said about being raised a certain way, though, and thinking everything had to be that way. And I've learned just to let go of that a lot now. Like there's a lot of things. I think a lot of times in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. I feel like a lot of times it's more like, it reminds me of the time of Christ in the New Testament, where you have like the Pharisees and you have all these laws. I'm not saying that laws and commandments are bad, but just saying there's all these things that aren't like scriptural per se. And I think that, you know, you can come to Jesus in many different ways, I guess is what I'm saying. So a lot of what I do when I do these is I'm just trying to go against the conventional way to come to Jesus. Because one of the other reasons I started these paintings is I didn't really like any paintings of Jesus. I felt like they were all too clean, too pure. And I was like, when you read the scriptures, I'm like, there's no way his robe is clean like that. Or like, there's no way, like he just, it just felt too peaceful. And when you read it and you think about the context of the situation, I'm like, people were trying to kill him. Like, he was coming there and he was upsetting the church at the time. And it wasn't just like this peaceful, happy transition time of like everything's like la la la. I mean, he was killed when he was in his 30s. So it's not like everything was awesome, you know, for lack of a better term.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that insight. I agree. I just wanted to, as the timekeeper, so to speak, we are at
Time's up.
3:13.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I know
just
you got to.
signing. I'm done. I'm
Oh,
just
it's
signing.
beautiful.
I'm trying to sign it right-handed. Sorry, guys. Left doesn't always work. But again, I'm still not using brushes, and I did use a broken butter knife. Did you see that? I was
Oh,
using a butter knife
good.
a lot of the time. This was the only tool I had down here, and it was broken.
All
So
right.
that worked really well, though. And then I kind of, with my thoughts with this particular painting, I tried to do, at first I wasn't going to do any lines like going over his face, because I was like, no, you don't want to cover him up. But I kind of like the idea behind it, like as I'm doing it, of just thinking, well, it kind of reminds me of the scripture that says, you know, they see through a looking glass darkly. I think it's in Amos. But the whole idea of like, you can't see clearly, although you're trying to. And that's kind of, I think that's kind of what this one is about, is you're looking for him and you're looking for this peace, or kind of like the serene moment, but there just seems to be a lot in a way. Like, it feels to me like, for me, like doing this drippy stuff on top, it feels like there's a layer, or like, I think you could even say a veil between me and Jesus. And there's this separation of like, no matter how close I want to be to him, I'm having a hard time finding my way through this to get to him. And those are just kind of my thoughts as I'm just finishing this up right now, as I'm working on it. I will probably sit down and write something about that on the back. It has to dry first, though. So it'll probably take a couple days to dry here. Trying to write my name does not work.
Well, wonderful. Can we have you back
Sure.
and do more of
again.
this? So then
That's fun.
Emily,
I don't mind just painting while you talk. I actually like that. So like I said, it's hard for me to, it's hard, like, you know, I didn't know what was going to happen when I started out with this, but then it just like, I don't know, you just kind of keep going and you keep making a mess and keep going with it, and it turns into something.
Oh, it was magical for me. I was like, when you were kind of stuck on that white thing, I'm like, is she gonna be able to do this? And then I look up.
I would. I just had to make a bigger mess, you know.
Yeah.
It just wasn't messy enough.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, like there had to be something to work with.
Well, if you enjoyed it, I know Jonathan, I did. So maybe we ought to have you back once a month to do another painting. Does that sound okay? Is that a pace you can handle?
Yeah, I can totally do that. I'd probably do it more if you want. Like, I don't mind.
I don't
mind just chilling here while you guys talk about whatever. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I like it. I liked watching it. So yeah, maybe I'd like to do it if we can every week for a while. I think that this is good. This is good.
I'll have stuff going on, but I don't know. I think it's good for me, because a lot of times on Sundays they cause me a lot of anxiety, because like I think like, oh, I should be doing something special with Jesus, or like I need to make it a special day, and then I get so much anxiety about trying to make it special that at the beginning it doesn't become special at all.
That's right.
And then it so it's hard. But doing something like this, so I have a hard time, like I said, motivating myself. Like, I will keep constantly getting distracted, but if I have like a reason, then I'll do it.
That's right. Yeah. And
so like I had this already, so it made me like do it. I guess
yeah, excellent. Well, I'm glad.
I was gonna work. Yeah, I was gonna finish this one today, this big blue one, but that's okay. I'll work on that another time. It's in too far of a stages. Like, it's, I don't know, it needs more concentration.
Yeah.
than like something like this. But I
Yeah,
actually like this one a lot.
I do
I do.
too.
I don't know what I'll call it or title it, but I'll write something up and I'll put it on my social media.
And how much do you sell those for? Just so our listeners can know when they say, I want the red Jesus, what is that going to cost them?
One this size, I usually do it by the square inch. So one this size is probably, I try to keep it really cheap. Probably about 300 for an original artwork this side, and that's actually really cheap.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sweet.
that's probably somewhere around there. I have to measure it exactly,
Well,
but
good. Well,
I used to always just give these away actually, but then they don't mean as much to people. It's really weird. If something's for free, like come buy Milk and Honey without price, it doesn't mean it. It's no, I'm serious. It's really weird because I originally was just giving all of these away, and then it like didn't have the same meaning, and
yeah.
it was like people wouldn't have the same care as it, it's just a really weird thing.
Yeah, it is.
It is weird. I saying that because I'm in a strange position that way. It's like I write all of this poetry, and it's like uh, it yeah, because I don't charge anything for everything I do. It I often feel meaningless personally because um, because it's like the world doesn't um, it doesn't give me what I need to live for the thing that I am. Does that make sense? It's this weird thing about money in this world. I don't understand it, but it's like we have to sacrifice for things, and it's just strange that way.
Yeah, like you have to sacrifice for it to have meaning. I guess that's what it is.
Right? Isn't that strange?
Yeah, that's definitely weird.
Yeah.
I'll come up with a title for this later and I'll send it to you guys. I don't know. I don't know what I would call it. I might just call it. I might just call it unclear, or
Okay.
Jesus is unclear, or
Well-
something about through the glass. I don't know what I'll call it. I have to come up with a good thing, but I'll send that to you later. I have to go now. But
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'm supposed to be somewhere soon. But I'll come up with a thing and I'll send it to you.
Okay,
You'll also
yeah.
see it when I post it online. I think you follow me on my Facebook account. I
Yeah.
also do my Instagram. Sometimes it's easier to like see the stuff that I've done and do. I just think the format's easier to like scroll through. But it posts to both, so that's cool too.
All
Anyway,
right.
well, I will talk to you guys later. And
All right, thank
I'll let
you.
you know what I title it. Hopefully by the end of the night tonight. But I don't know. Whatever.
Sounds
If I
good.
get the
All
title
right.
to you later, you can always put it in your comments or something.
Indeed.